We've received quite a bit of interest in my free to be workshop, so to that effect, beneath this video is a link that will give you a description for the workshop, and we've also included a special discount. So if that's something you would be interested in, I would invite you to click that link, and I hope that you would find the course to be quite beneficial. If you've had much ongoing exposure to people who have a strong narcissistic bent, you're going to be able to see very clearly that these individuals need to have an enemy, and that's where you come in. How many times have you had engagements with that narcissistic person and you just felt like it's turned into an adversarial interaction very unnecessarily? Ever happened to you? It could be that you're doing something simple like trying to arrange a schedule, or you're working on a project together, or certainly if you're talking about opinions and preferences, they can take those kinds of issues and then turn it into a right versus wrong kind of mentality. Which one of us is correct, who's incorrect, who's superior, who's inferior. They have no capacity to simply collaborate. They have to think in terms of one of us has to be right, one of us has to be wrong, one of us has to conquer, the other is the conquered. That's how they operate. Now, I want to walk you through a progression of thoughts and behaviors that can help you understand what's going on inside of that narcissist and their deep personal history that predisposes them to look at you as being an enemy. Now, the first thing I'm going to mention, and I know you're going to shake your head and say, oh yeah, I see this one huge, but it's not going to be written in the textbook. The first thing we recognize is narcissists are not likable people. And that being the case, they have a deep history of lots of troubled relationships, going back into their childhood or in their adolescent years, and certainly in their young adult and then deeper adult years. They've had lots of experiences where people have walked away shaking their head thinking, I can't deal with you. I don't like being around you. And they've been on the receiving end of that. And so they have to start asking themselves, well, what's going on here? Now, one of the things that they don't want to do is they don't want to say, well, maybe there's something wrong with me. But instead, if they've been rejected, which they have been many, many times over, it's someone else's fault. And so they can go straight into the victim mode. They go straight into the blame mode because they have no objectivity regarding what their contribution to that situation is. Now, going deeper into that progression, we see that despite the heavy or steady amounts of criticisms that they offer to you, or despite the fact that they have strong difficulties in managing anger and conflict well, despite the fact that they invalidate people left and right, they honestly can't imagine why people would deem them to be inappropriate. It's like, there's nothing wrong with me. If there's a problem here, it must be you. And they have an astonishing lack of insight and awareness about how they come across to people. All they know is, well, I have to be right, and I'm not going to take a look at what you might be thinking about relative to me. There's no empathy there, no ability to see things from your vantage point. And so they concoct an alternate reality that props up their fragile ego, which takes us deeper into that progression. Narcissists maintain this enemy mindset because there's this need for them to have a sense of adoration and affirmation that's deeply embedded, and that's a part of being human, by the way, but they can't come to terms with the fact that you don't adore them. You don't admire them. With that lack of reality and with the deep history of having had a lot of rejection and conflict, then instead of saying, well, I need to figure out what that's all about, all they're thinking is, you don't accept me, what's that all about? And then that being the case, as they look at you and your reasoning and what you try to say to them about whatever is going on, they interpret you as being a very flawed person. Rather than saying, well, I have all these conflicts with many different people, and the common denominator is, well, me. I need to take a look at what this means about me. Well, they're too fragile. And as a result, it's like, well, if there's a common denominator, well, I'll tell you what it is. I'm associated with a bunch of idiots. And so they turn you and all the many other individuals who've rejected them into the problem. Well, what this means then is that they become deeply committed to their defenses. Instead of opening up and saying, I want to receive input, they put a shield up around themselves and they rationalize and justify all the things about themselves that make them unique. And that means that if there's a problem, then it's about you. And so if you say, hey, there's something that we need to talk about, they'll flip it around and say, yeah, there really is something that we need to talk about. We need to talk about why you can't get along with me. And so their lack of awareness and their tight defensiveness keeps you in the enemy's position in their life. And then in the end, they just have to have somebody to blame. That lack of insight, that lack of awareness, that deep embedded fear that's on the inside of themselves and struggle with rejection is something that's just more than their psyche can manage. And so they go into the mode that says, well, there's something wrong here, and I'm going to make sure that everybody knows it's you, it's not me. If you had a long-standing relationship with a narcissist, you know exactly what I'm talking about. These are individuals who simply cannot take responsibility for whatever contributions they bring to the breakup or the difficulty in a relationship. And so they're constantly going into that battle with you. It's a fight. It's a struggle. And you're over there thinking, I don't want to fight. I don't want to do battle. I don't want to have to struggle. And their thinking is, that's the only way I know because I've been dealing with this literally for decades now. So knowing all of this and realizing the progression of how they get to that place, there's just going to be some insights that I'm hoping you can have a certain awareness of so that you don't get drug into the ditch with them, and before you know it, it brings out the worst in you. In other words, you don't need to take the role of enemy in the way that they want you to do. They want you to fight. Let's begin with the realization. These are empty people. Let's make a contrast. When you think of a person that's had a full life, that's the opposite of empty. A person that has a full life has many rewarding engagements with people. There's a sense of understanding and a sense of connectedness, and there's a collaboration. Pleasures, simple pleasures mean a lot to them, and they share in a whole lot of give and take with other individuals. And it's like, good, life is full. Narcissists, because they have such a deep history of having been rejected and then becoming the rejector, they don't have that sense of fullness. They have an emptiness that they draw upon. There's a lot of pain on the inside that they cannot and do not want to access. That being the case, we can also say these are individuals who have next to zero introspection capabilities. They've gone so deep into their alternate reality that when you come along and say, let's think things through a bit differently, it's like, no, my mind's already made up. And if there's a problem between you and me, then you're the problem. And they go deep into that blame and accusing and forceful kind of mode. They go into their exploitation, manipulation, and control. It's like, okay, I get it. I need to be the enemy. And they'll continue to do that because their introspection is so low. Having said that, let's underscore, when they go into this blame mode toward you, that's part of their defense mechanism of projection. Rather than seeing what's wrong on the inside of themselves and how they actually offend people, they see inside of you the very things they refuse to come to terms with inside themselves. That's classic projection, and that's extremely common with the narcissistic pattern. That being the case, instead of looking at relationships as a collaborative or an equal to equal kind of exchange or engagement, they look at relationships as a hierarchy. And you're over there thinking, we don't have to think in terms of hierarchy, who's above and who's below. We each bring differences. We each bring uniqueness to the table, and let's just let it be that. And they're thinking, well, if you differ from me, again, there's something wrong. You're coming against me, aren't you? And there's almost a paranoia that they can bring in so many of their relationships. And then finally, let's operate with the assumption that because of all of this alternate reality and this unresolved strain on the inside of the narcissist, they don't know how to be friends. Friends say, hey, bring your stuff, your pluses and minuses to the equation. Let me know about it. I'll bring my pluses and minuses. And let's figure out how we can accept and encourage and accommodate one another in a healthy, uplifting kind of way. That kind of thinking is lost on a narcissist. And again, we go back to that high-low adversarial style of relationship they have. And so much of it starts with that first point that I make. They have a deep history of people not liking them, and they're constantly trying to make up for that and rationalize why that can't possibly be a reflection on them, that they miss all of the steps that are necessary to figure out how to have a restoration with other individuals. They just simply declare you to be the enemy, and they act in that kind of way. Now, they're not going to be able to see it. As the years continue to go by, they're going to continue to be offended by you when you are different. They're going to have more and more broken relationships. And so your task is to make sure that you see and understand that there's a lot going on the inside of their character that's been there for a long time. And I'm hoping you can be anchored not in their alternate reality, but in truth. Truth is, these are troubled souls. These are individuals who don't know how to do relationships well because they can't come to terms with the conglomeration of pluses and minuses on the inside of themselves. And so you can't look at them as being individuals who know how to do relationships healthy. It's simply not going to happen. You're the enemy, but you know what? I don't play that game, so I'm not going to get caught up in the snares that go along with it. I do hope that videos such as this give you some good food for thought and help you understand a little bit about what you're dealing with. If you've not already done so, I would encourage you to hit that subscribe button, and we'll keep more videos coming. When you hit the subscribe button, you'll see a bell. Hit that too so you can get the notifications. You may notice that we have a join button also that's associated with our channel right below. And we would invite you to join our Surviving Narcissism Team Healthy. It's an exclusive membership that we have, and it allows you to have access to Q&A sessions that I have once a week, and Laura has hers once a week. In addition, we have additional videos that we throw in there. It's just part of our membership and something that's not necessarily, it's not available to the general public, but we want you to be able to have that as a member of Team Healthy. If you have a need for counseling, I would encourage you to look up individuals who might be able to help you in that regard. And if you don't have someone in your immediate area, we have vetted a group. They're a sponsor of ours, and there's a link below that can take you to online counseling, and that's very popular right now. And this is a group that we've vetted and I have a lot of confidence in and had good feedback. And so if you need some counseling, avail yourself to that, and it can help you as you sift this out. In addition, we have my Free to Be course. It's a very large and extensive course with videos and teachings and questions of introspection. And it's quite extensive, but it puts you to work and makes you do a lot of introspection about where you've been in your life with difficult people. And I hope you would find something like that to be interesting. In addition, we have my books like When Pleasing You is Killing Me, and other books that are part of our resources. Lots of things down below the video here. Narcissists want to keep you in the adversarial mode. The good news is you don't have to play along with that. Know that they want you as an enemy. But then, like I say, if you're not playing the game, then they're just going to be flailing in the wind without your participation. And that's frankly what you're going to need to have to look into. That being the case, I'm hoping you stay away from their concoction or conglomeration of illogical interactions. And I hope that you stay at your place of steadiness, because in the end, I'm hoping that you can live a life of contentment and peace.